Hi everyone, my name is Krystal Clark and I will be speaking on the Truth Corner this week, and this week's session will be about back and forth. Okay, so let's just dive right on into it. The back and forth, I can say, will be more so about me and my god sister and apologizing, going back and forth in the relationship there. And so the first time that me and my god sister had even really had a conversation, she was actually getting ready to get married. And I just happened to like pop up at one of the services at church, and I was just like, okay, like I'll just go to church. I just felt like going to church that day, so I just went. And during that service, or after the service, I was speaking with my mom, and I remember her tapping me like, hey, can we talk? And so me being kind of reluctant, I'm like, what do we need to talk about? Like, we haven't talked in maybe almost 2 years at this point. And she was just like, I really just want to get some stuff off of my chest before I get married. And I'm like, okay, you want to get stuff off your chest before you get married? Okay, so let's just hear it. Like, let's just see how this goes. So the conversation started with her apologizing, basically for, all of the hurt that was caused, and the betrayal that she felt like she, played that part. And with her getting with, my ex at the time. And I explained, where I stood. And at that time, I told her I forgive you, but looking back, I don't know if it was true forgiveness. I think I was just kind of like over everything, and it was just like, okay, yeah, I forgive you, like, okay, like, let's end this conversation. But I think I was really kind of working on myself at the same time, because I wasn't around, I wasn't involved in any of the drama. But I think I know for me it was more so hurt from her perspective. From my perspective with her, because I knew her longer than I knew my ex at the time. It was a sisterhood, it was a bond, it was everything to me, and I don't really allow people in my circle like that. So for her to know and us to grow up, and I'm like, yo, you my god sister, like, that took me more of a blow than anything else, because I'm like, guys come and they go, but your sisterhood is supposed to be your sisterhood. So for that, I think it took me longer to actually forgive, like truly forgive, more so than anything. But of course, we went with the back and forth thing. And then when I came back to church, I think full circle, we started working on our relationship. We actually started talking, we communicated more. It wasn't during church service, it wasn't like, she better not look over here. It was none of that, because prior it was like, she better not look at me, she better not say nothing to me, she better not speak to me, she better nothing. But once I think I fully came back to church, and we kind of had little talks here and there. She was in a different stage in her life, and I was in a different stage in my life. And I'm like, okay, well, why not? Like, at that point, I was over the situation. I was over the drama. I had fully been gone like 6 years, and the back and forthness, there really wasn't any at that time anymore. So for us to start building the relationship, and we took it very, very slow, like extremely slow. It wasn't like, oh, let's just jump right back into it and, you know, hey girl, hey girl. It was just like, hey, and then it built back up to like, oh, like, you know, what are you doing after church, or what's going on with you, or where are you working now, or, you know, it was little subtle things. So I can say we started, you know, kind of building and working stuff, but then it kind of went back. And when it went back was during that time, I should say when I came back, I believe my god sister and my ex were having kind of issues, and they were on their way to a divorce. And so me and her kind of got even closer because we were trying to actually really build our relationship, and it didn't even necessarily have to do anything with him. It was just like us, like, what is our bond, what does our relationship look like now, without even having conversations that had to deal with him. We just really wanted to focus on, you know, her and I relationship, and how can we get back to as close as possible. I think we both felt like it will probably never be the same, but we can establish what our new relationship will be. And so we really worked on it, and it got to a really good point where we would literally sit and talk. We both had got kind of back in the choir. We even sat next to each other in the choir, which was crazy because it looked completely crazy if you think about it. Like, these girls is really having a whole full, you know, conversations about everything, but, you know, we was just like, we were done, we were over it. And it reverted back a little bit after a while. Once I got word that she was actually getting back with, you know, her ex-husband / my ex-boyfriend at the time. And during that time, like, I always said up front, like, if it has anything to do with him, I do not want to be any parts, any close. I just did not want any drama. And it had nothing to really do with her. It was just, I was so far over the drama. I was so far over the hurt, and a lot of people didn't know everything that was going on between he and I. I never explained it. I never told anybody. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell nobody. I was just like, this is something I'm gonna take to the grave. So, but I always was very upfront with my god sister about that. I always stated, you know, if you gonna do this, just know I'm gonna distance myself, because I don't want my name affiliated with anything that has to deal with that. And that was to protect myself, my peace, my just everything, because I know how I can get. And I remember there was a phone call that we had, and she actually called me this time and explained, like, hey, yes, I am getting back with him, and I really want to work things out. We have a kid, and, you know, I was really concerned. And I remember asking her this question, and I was like, do you really trust that he has changed? And it wasn't, to me, it wasn't like I wanted to get back with him. It was me taking self out and actually feeling like I needed to protect her at this time. It was like the roles were like reversed. So it was like she was a little sister and I was a big sister, like protecting her, like, yo, I know how it can get with this certain person, and you have to mentally really be prepared And it was like, you already went through the divorce. Like, it's done. It's over with, girl. We moving forward. Like, no, we don't need to go back. And I just remember asking her that. And I was so sincere about it. I'm like, do you really trust that he has changed? And she paused. And I was like, she gonna say no. I know she gonna say no. Like, that was a question that was gonna click in her mind. And she was like, yes, I prayed about it. And I know, you know, God answers prayers. And I'm like, when she said that, I was like, okay. I had to wash my hands. And I was just like, whew. Like, I just remember once I got off the phone, I actually cried. I did. I cried because I was just like, I do not want her to go through the stress and the drama of everything that's about to happen again with this person. And I felt like it was going to get worse because she knew what she was getting herself into. But now, because of the type of person, it was like going to escalate like 10 times more. And it was, you know, we still had our own conversations, still going back and forth, but it was not as close as when we were building it. And I had to explain to her, like, it's not you that I don't trust, it's the people around you that I don't trust. And that's when the back and forth kind of started back over again. It was a lot of family drama, church drama happened. It literally was like, okay, we going back to almost 10 years ago to everything that just happened. So I left, came back, and we went back when we was all trying to go forward. But it did not happen that way. And yeah, things got really, really ugly again. And it was just one of those things where I was just like, we cannot keep going back and forth. Like, this just cannot happen. And so I decided to remove myself completely. I was just like, you know what? We can't have a conversation because I'm more invested in you than I am in the whole entire situation. Like, I felt like my relationship with, you know, my god sister was, even though it wasn't the same, it was still important to me to kind of like, yo, I'm rooting for you, but I gotta root for me from afar. And so what I would take from the whole going back and forth, I think in that time with going back and forth, you have to meet people where they are. And I think in that journey, we were meeting each other where we were to a certain extent. I don't think that we grasped everything that was happening and how the relationship building was so important for both of us, but also showing each other like how we cared. So it was a mixture of stuff that was kind of weaving in and out, but the back and forth, going back and forth, I think we just realized at that point, like, we're getting too grown to keep going back and forth. Either it's gonna be one way or it's gonna be another. And I think that's important to know, like, hey, you gotta meet people where they are.